I, lived in Waco all my life. But what brought me to CareNet was I was pregnant and trying to get away from my baby's dad, which was a drug addict.
What brought CareNet to mind, or how did you even know CareNet existed?
I had a friend that worked here. I had heard about the program through her.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Like, you have this tremendous story. Like, where would you like to start?
I come from a house where my dad, which was my stepdad, pretty much raised me, and he was a farmer, and my mom was a general manager of the Taco Bell in Hillsboro. So I kind of, had a lot, but not really, because we also kind of had to work for what we had.
You mentioned in the story that your grandma was pretty special to you.
Yeah, um, she was one of my everythings, I guess you could say, and I guess I kind of lost a piece of myself when she passed away. So I was never the same after that.
How old were you when she passed?
16.
And so after she passed away, kind of what happened after 16?
I was raped by 4 guys that I trusted, and I had nobody to go to. Sorry. Um, and I guess things happen and it leads to other things because you hold it in and you don't tell nobody.
And then when you were 20, you had, was it your high school sweetheart at that point?
Yeah, and we got divorced like 4 or 5 years after we got married. Had we been 21 before I ever married him, I probably wouldn't have married him because he was an alcoholic and a verbal abuser.
And so you had, how many children did you have at that point?
None.
No children.
No children.
So tell me about your first baby and what, yeah, tell me about your first
I knew my son's father for a while. I knew him. I met him when I was like 15, and I had known him from back in the day. And after I got divorced, I wasn't that skinny little girl that he had known, but he wasn't neither. And he wanted to go on a diet together, and his form of diet was doing meth. And I probably did that off and on for 10 years. When I got pregnant with Peyton, I quit doing it. But then 2 weeks after I had him, his dad brought it back in the house and I relapsed. And then when he was 6 months old, at this time, we were living with my mom, and I told his dad he had to go because he threatened to kill not only me, himself, but he threatened to kill my son. And it's one thing for you to abuse me and put your hands on me, but when it comes to my children, you're not going to do that.
Tell me, is that the son that your mom ended up with?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about that process.
So I was doing drugs and I had nowhere to go. And I knew that he had signed his rights over to her. So me and her had joint custody at the time. And I was pregnant with Brecklin, my second child. Let's see how do I word this. I was sober at the time because I have the willpower when I'm pregnant to not do it. But when my mom was taking my son from me, it hurt so bad that if I couldn't have him, I didn't want her. So I did it the whole time I was pregnant with her, up until the last 2 months. And I chose to have her at a hospital where I knew they wouldn't check my placenta. And both of us almost died. So it was a scary experience. But she's probably one of the most perfect ones I have. She has no anger issues or anything. She's just clingy.
And so how many kids do you have now?
I have 3.
3. And what are their ages?
10, 6, and 3.
And you were here with your 3-year-old?
I was pregnant. I came when I was probably about 2 months pregnant with her. I was here the whole time I was pregnant with her.
Describe the healing process that you were able to go through by being here and coming out of that you were in?
The program that saved me the most was Overcomers. Because not only is it a 12-step program, it's a 12-step program based off the Bible. And it's not just for addiction to alcohol, drugs, or anything like that. It's also like you're addicted to shopping. It just doesn't single one person out. And then you realize what is so good to be close to the Lord in those books, because you have homework that you have to do every day on that book. And you have to complete it and you have to follow those steps. And then in the beginning, it makes you write what you're powerless over. And I used to always write when I first started that I was powerless over the men that I choose, drugs, and my mother. But when I got midway through that program, I realized that my mom wasn't all the problem, that it was me too. And now, like, my mom's relationship and my relationship is like 100 times better than it's ever been.
What is a word you would use to describe the feeling when you walk through the door?
When I come to CareNet, I feel love, care, and peace. It is a comfortable environment, and they're very loving. Most of the staff here is very loving and at peace with, and how they treat the girls is very good. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't came here. I probably would still be doing drugs, not have any of my kids. And even though I don't have custody of Peyton, we still get to be with him, and my kids get to be raised together. And, my relationship with my mom, I would not change it, like, for the world. So if I had to do everything over again, I would still do it all the same way. Because if I didn't and I changed one part of it, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. My name is Dana Sue Behringer, and this is my story.